much, Luminita. So first of all, thank you all for being here in this second session of the webinar, Current Developments in Food Loss and Waste Reduction. As you know, if you participated in the webinar yesterday, it was a quite successful webinar with more of 100 attendees. So hopefully this second day is equally successful. Today, the session will be also organized in two different sessions. We will start now with the first session, which is entitled Innovative Practice to Use Food Loss and Waste. And then after a break around 11:30, we will start with the second session entitled Valorization Strategies to Reduce Food Loss and Waste. So without further ado, we'll start with the first session, which will be moderated by me, and in which we will have 6 different speakers. Now we'll start with Berta Vidal, which will give the keynote. Berta Vidal is the responsible of knowledge and research area in Fundació FLW. Berta has a master's degree in nutrition and health, epidemiology and public health from the Wageningen University, and is a researcher with more than 8 years of experience working in food loss and waste field. She has mainly carried out projects focusing on food loss and waste measurement and impact assessment of prevention actions in primary production and at consumer level, particularly in school canteens, together with projects assessing food loss and waste under the food supply chain approach for different community sectors, among others. Today, Berta is here representing the Follow project. So Berta, the floor is yours. You have around 20 minutes for this keynote. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Joan, for the introduction. So I will now share my screen. I hope now you see my screen properly. No?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can move.
Okay, great. So first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me and, well, FLW to give this talk introducing this session. Well, as you might have noticed by the introduction of Joan, so I'm actually not an expert on innovation, let's say, but I have quite, well, experience working on the food loss and waste field. So when I was preparing this talk, or to introduce these different 5 presentations on innovative practice to use food losses and waste, I just thought, okay, let's see what, according to the European Commission, European Union, what is innovation. So I found three definitions. One is the general definition of innovation by Eurostat, that is saying that the innovation is the use of new ideas, products, or methods where they have not been used before. Then I also found the term of eco-innovation, that are like these innovations that are basically focused to reduce the environmental impact of the actions or the stages where actually they are applied. And then I also found the term of social innovations, that are these innovations that are social in both their ends and their means, and that basically they are focused on meets the social needs, make and create new social relationships or collaborations, and that they are not only good for society, but also enhance society capacity to act, So these 3, let's say, dimensions or these different branches, of innovations related automatically with the 3 dimensions of sustainability, that are environmental sustainability, social sustainability, and at the same time, both social and environmental sustainabilities, they cannot actually happen or persist during time if they are not economically sustainable. So I think that it's important to have in mind that innovations are not only based on technology or digital innovations, but that we also have social innovations and different types of innovations that are all necessary to tackle the food loss and waste problem. So in this part of the webinar, we will have 5 presentations. from professionals that are actually working on very valuable innovations to tackle the food loss and waste field. They will present innovations with social value. They will also present digital innovations based on e-commerce to reduce food loss and waste through short supply chains. We also will have innovations based on, we also will have innovations based on food sharing practices. Also, innovations related to developing ideas to tackle food loss and waste in school canteens. And then also big work that they did mapping and identifying different types of innovations that already exist and are proposed to tackle the food loss and waste problem. So since there will be actually professionals in this field that they know about their innovations they are working with, I actually focus this talk more on the context of food loss and waste problem. We all know this context, but I think that somehow we end up working in a very narrow space of this food loss and waste problem, and sometimes it's good to broaden the concept again and to remember why are we actually working to tackle this problem. And while doing this, at the end, I will present different challenges that I think that we still need to solve, and that I think that innovations are crucial to solve these type of problems. So basically, I will go very fast, but actually we know that we are in a situation where our current lifestyles are challenging the ecosystems, and the present and future life in our planet. We also know that global food systems, they feed and they nourish us, but at the same time, they are also threatening these three dimensions of sustainability. They are one of the main contributors to overstepping the six planetary boundaries that have been already overpassed, and it was published in 2023. So we also can see that the socioeconomics and sustainability of food systems are leading to food insecurity and nutrition. They are also leading to social injustice among different actors of global food supply chain. And in these cases, normally these inequalities, what they do is that they leave those who produce the food actually in the worst situations, and in many cases they end up being poor and suffering from food insecurity. And then there are also every time more cases of issues related to food safety and animal and health issues. So we have this situation, and at the same time we are wasting and losing a big part of the amount of food that we are producing to feed us. We all know the number of 1/3 of the food produced for human consumption lost or wasted, that was published by FAO in 2011. But also according to what some of the speakers that were talking in yesterday's webinar said, these initial estimates were actually underestimating the true dimension of the problem. We have every time new studies that they publish data, and they actually assess these dimensions, and they are actually saying that the problem is actually bigger than what was expected at the beginning. We also know that food losses and waste, what they do is they also actually enhance all the impacts, all the bad impacts also of global food systems. We all know that it's crucial and extremely urgent to act to reverse this situation. That's why we are all here, and that's why we are working in these fields, I believe. But there are also good news, because actually reducing food losses and waste are actually one of the actions that are considered a lever for change to improve food system sustainability, as they are actually one of the three main actions, together with shifting to sustainable diets and also shifting to sustainable production systems, that would contribute to this great food transformation of the food systems that we need in order to improve our present and future quality of life in this planet. But of course, to actually tackle and to finish, let's say, with this problem of food losses and waste, we need to understand why it happens. What do we know so far? I mean, we know that this actually is a structural problem of globalized food systems. We also know that there are actually many complex interactions of many different factors that in many cases have different nature, that they act simultaneously and they lead to food losses and waste in a specific point of the food supply chain. And we also know that actually food supply chain stages are like communicating vessels regarding food loss and waste generation, meaning that maybe we are acting and implementing an action, an innovation to reduce food loss or food waste in the installations of my company, let's say. But maybe what this is doing is like generating food losses or food waste in other stages of the food supply chain. So why are we not actually advancing enough? Why are we halfway to reach theoretically the targets that were set, actually the Sustainable Development Goal 12.3, and the progress is still too slow, no? So maybe it is because we are actually having an incomplete understanding of the problem, and this is actually blurring appropriate action to tackle food losses and waste. And actually, we think that this is mainly happening at the stages of the food supply chains that are located in the extremes, consumption stages and also primary production, which at the same time are supposed to be the stages of the food supply chain that contribute the most to the total levels of food loss and waste that are generated along these value chains. So having all these situation or this context, of course, innovations are crucial to address these challenges and actually transforming these food losses and waste from a problem, let's say, to a lever for changing the unsustainability of food systems, to improving them. So now what I will do is like present 3 different challenges. You will see that there are small challenges within these big challenges that still we need to tackle. They are like food for thought for all of us that we are working in this field. We are actually working on innovations, testing innovations, so we still have a lot of work to do, and these are things that we need to have in mind and that we will need to tackle in the present or in the short future if we really want to solve the problem of food losses and waste. The first one is food loss in primary production. As Joan said, I'm participating in the Follow project that is actually focused on understanding, measuring, and actually tackling the problem of food losses and food losses in primary production. And I'm working in Fundació Espígula 2, and actually we work in different stages of the food supply chain, but we work a lot in primary production regarding food losses, And actually, by working on this, one thing that we know, and that it was also said in yesterday's webinar, we know that there had been a lot of regulations. We have advanced regulating what is food waste, how it should be measured, how to report it. We also set precise targets for food waste, but all of them, they exclude or they make food losses complementary. We still lack a standard definition for food losses. We lack a quantification and reporting methodology that is standardized. We also lack context-specific studies and solutions because it is such a complex problem that maybe general solutions are not really useful everywhere or efficient everywhere. And we also realize that actually even the standard definition of food is kind of a challenge in order to address the problem of food loss, because actually the definition of food excludes everything lost before the moment of harvest. So this actually would exclude everything that is not harvested and is left in the fields. And also basically we lack like fruits and vegetables, being one of the the food commodities that are wasted or lost in a higher rate. are being the ones more studied, but we lack data and knowledge on meat, we lack on fishing, wild foods. What about lab meat? No, like some people are saying that lab meat is an innovation, it's that will help to feed us in a more sustainable way, but how do we feed this lab meat in all these food laws if we want to tackle this food loss and waste problem, no? We were also, while doing this work in a follow project and thinking about reporting and how to measure food losses, we actually thought because in Spain, in February, you can perfectly go to a supermarket and buy, for instance, a watermelon or a melon, that is not produced in Spain. But actually, and then we tried to do a bit of research on this, And what did we find out? We found out that actually all these melons that we could buy in Spain in February were coming from Senegal or were coming from Brazil, so from countries from the global south. They are actually produced by European or Spanish companies in this case. They produce there to exclusively export to Europe. We went there and we actually did a qualitative assessment on the food losses in this case, And what people were telling us is that more or less half of the production of these melons were actually lost in the fields and were not exported to Spain. So who is responsible to reduce this amount of food losses that are produced in the global south, that are produced exclusively to export to global north, If we have global targets, we also need to have these things into account. There are also the short supply chains are supposed to be more sustainable. So how do they relate with food loss and waste generation? At the same with organic and production or agroecological, agroecology, They are more sustainable production systems, but how do they relate with food losses and waste? And at the same with different types of legislations and regulations, such as migration policies that affect workers that are actually in the fields, labor, also all the issue of the lack of generational renewal in agriculture or rural population, that actually it's really important in the south of Europe, at least. I mean, what do we do with this? Because this is actually having an indirect effect also on the generation of food losses. So these are different challenges, different issues that we still need to tackle in order to finish or to solve the problem of food loss in primary production. Then the second challenge is more focused at consumption stages, mainly households. So households are one of the stages of the food supply chain that have been extensively studied. We started by measuring the amount of food loss, and then we shifted more to understanding consumer behavior to understand why we are wasting food at our homes. And we did a lot of research, and actually what we know is that actually the magnitude of the problem is even bigger than what we thought, and that actually that there are the causes of wasting this food are really related to lifestyle, to our current lifestyles, not having a lot of time, etc. But at the same time, there are many good practices. There are a lot of compilations, reports of good practices to prevent food waste in households, which is really good. But we know that actually these practices can be promptly affected by external factors that led to abrupt changes in society. For instance, the COVID pandemic, extreme weather effect, also changes in personal situations, mental health status. All these things can actually affect why do we generate more or less food wastes at home. And finally, the third challenge is actually more focused on
Berta,
see
you have around 5 minutes.
yes okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then, so the third challenge is also focused in consumption stages, but more in restoration services, such as like school canteens or restaurants, for example. So we know that also, particularly this sector of school canteens is, I think, one of with most advanced research in the food waste prevention. We have many studies that have measured food waste. They have proposed methodologies to quantify food waste under a systematic approach. We also have a lot of studies analyzing its causes, no? And also assessing its environmental and economic impacts. We also have a few school canteens that have been a scenario of actually studying and assessing interventions to prevent food waste. But still, food waste is occurring, no? So we need more evidence-based solutions that are applied in these fields, and that they include insights from behavioral science or consumer behavioral change. We also need to think if these solutions that we are actually assessing and that we see that they are maybe successful in a context, if they are actually also valid for other contexts, if they are affordable for most of school canteens or other restoration services. We also, working in school canteens, you realize that it is, at least in Spain, a very stressful situation. They are normally few people with a lot of work. And if they need to do more things to prevent food waste, it increases the workload. So maybe if we tell them to implement these specific interventions to reduce food waste, we also need to do something to decrease their workload so they can do both things properly, let's say. And also in school canteens, as also some of the speakers yesterday, they said that actually fruits and mainly vegetables are the foods that are wasted in higher amounts. And at the same time, in school canteens and everywhere, but school canteens, we are promoting sustainable diets that are based on consuming higher amounts of vegetables, and at the same time vegetable-derived proteins. So we need to promote sustainable diets and at the same time implement actions to prevent food waste in these fields. Otherwise, maybe the effect that we're expecting it doesn't have like the benefits that we thought, no? So actually, what I wanted to do is to give a bit of like food for thought and to think that there are still many things to do. We have advanced a lot, but there are many things to do, and that these innovations, actually, we need these innovations to tackle these issues, no? We actually need different types of innovations to tackle the whole problem of food losses and waste. They should be tested and adapted to different contexts, and that we really need social and inclusive innovations to tackle the problem of food losses and waste. And also like thinking globally, because the climate crisis and social crisis is a global issue. We need to introduce global justice and more holistic perspective in the actions that we are implementing to reduce food losses and waste if we really want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals or whichever goals that will come in the future.
Thank you very much,
On my side.
for this really nice presentation and really a good amount of food for thought in that case. Thank you very much. Now let's move to our second speaker, which is going to be Chantal Dembreder. She joined the BLTN team as a food system expert in July 2022. She has 50 years of experience in trade and agricultural value chains, and she will be speaking today on the results to date obtained within the Chorizo project regarding the interventions identified which address food loss and waste and the key innovation practices and technology prevalent in those interventions. Thank you very much, and Chantal, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just share my screen. Can you all see it now?
Yes.
Okay, all right, perfect. And I will go into there. Everyone can see the screen, okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yes, thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone for the invitation to be here. My name is, as was said, Chantal Dembreder. I am with VLTN, which is one of the partners in the Chorizo project. And what I'll be doing today is speaking to you briefly about interventions that we have identified in that project, which address, food loss and food waste. So for those of you who perhaps don't know, what is the Chorizo Project? Well, the Chorizo Project, we have a big aim, but we're really focused on trying to understand here behavior related to food waste generation. How do we do that? Well, we're first trying to understand what social norms are evident. What are the social expectations? What is being reinforced in society in terms of how you behave when it comes to food waste generation? So how did we go about doing this? Well, we started with our first work package. We thought it would be a good idea to see what is the state of play when it comes to interventions that are already taking place in the EU. Not just identifying them here, but trying to understand why are they there? What is their objective? What is the thought process behind them being there in the first place? What are their goals? And also, of course, what impacts have they had, including have they had any really on food waste? Hopefully they have. And then to use that information in work package 1, as well as information, because we've also done work in the project. We have 6 case studies in different areas of the supply chain stage. So also case studies looking at, again, social norms and behavior related to food waste. For example, in households, we have one, or we have another one in restaurants. So the idea was here to use the information from the case studies as well as the information in terms of broader context in the EU of what we see going on, put that together and use it for our modeling and predictive analytics. Here trying to come forward with really a better understanding how people behave when it comes to food waste, and very importantly, what is guiding that behavior. Ultimately, when our project ends, which will be next year, we will aim to put forward some very effective communication education packages, as well as some capacity building activities to foster change in social norms and behavior, and also to help those actors that are currently in this field to continue their efforts towards a zero food loss and waste. Okay. Next slide. So this is just a very brief timeline. I won't say too much here. We are a 3-year project. The bulk of the work in work package 1 took place over 7 months, so it wasn't very long that we had. We started it in October 2022, and we finished work package in December. This last December. We'll be finishing the whole project in September 2025. Very briefly, how did we go about getting this information? Again, very short time period. So we did some very intensive desktop research, in-depth interviews with a variety of food supply chain actors, focusing on those that were involved really in these initiatives, in these interventions, and then ultimately the analysis, which was both qualitative and quantitative. The quantitative, as I'll get into, was quite hard in terms of getting the food waste levels. Also looking at environmental impacts was very tough here, but I'll say a little bit more about that later. We used that information, work package 1, to come forward with 2 indices as a metric, really, to help stakeholders rank different interventions. I actually am not so comfortable with the word rank, because all these interventions are very valuable in and of themselves. But this was so that if an external stakeholder was looking at this huge list of interventions, they could say, okay, well, this intervention is taking place in this supply chain sector. That's what I'm thinking of doing. This is how it might help me in my work. Or I want to do an intervention valorization, for example. So that's how we were trying to separate them, really, so it was easier for stakeholders to absorb all the information, if I can put it that way. And then ultimately, we also developed sector-specific guidance, where we were looking at a comparative analysis of these interventions, looking at success factors, challenges, etc. Ultimately, what we really wanted to come forward is some key points in terms of helping to identify what do you really need here to have a high potential to address food waste. And this was tough because, as it was just said, these interventions, they are all in different contexts. So you have very different contexts to work with, but we tried to come up with some summaries here. So we have 395 interventions that we've actually identified across the EU and across the supply chain stages. When it came to longevity of an intervention, funding generally, of course, is always very key, but what we saw was more important was not so much the funding, but that the intervention was embedded with something that was already taking place or building upon something that was already taking place and working with multiple stakeholders. Implementation challenges, one of the funding, of course, comes up, but we saw a lot of different apps coming up, different scientific innovations coming forward. So technology was always an issue there in terms of upkeep as well, that technology, and logistics and redistribution. We had a lot of interventions in the redistribution of surplus food. So you're working with charities, retailers, food supply chain, or food services rather, and then all these different entities that need to get that food, transportation. So logistics was always an issue. And then, of course, we had the pandemic. Some of the very positive socioeconomic impacts, definitely when we're looking at some of these valorization initiatives or interventions, job creation, additional products on the market. Also, we saw very prevalent was increasing awareness about food waste, first and foremost, starting the conversation. What is it? Why are we here? Why is it important? And then a lot of interventions, and I think we had just mentioned the previous presentation about social innovations. There were a lot of interventions here where you had a community cohesiveness that resulted from the intervention, and of course the very positive socioeconomic impact of providing food to those in need. Food waste generation was quite tough. We had to rely very much on what they were telling us and understand how they were getting the information that they got in terms of food waste levels. And it varied greatly from very small amounts because of to very big amounts. And this is obviously because each intervention is very different. So you have to see each intervention in the context within which it is taking place. Environmental impacts, there we also had quite a difficulty. We did utilize the JRC calculator for this, the Commission calculator, but we found that a lot of interventions, if they were tracking at all environmental impacts, it was greenhouse gas emissions, but not at all land or water use.
Chantal, you have 1 minute left.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I'll just be very quick. Very interesting of these interventions as well, if we're looking at the inverted food waste hierarchy pyramid, half of them were prevention actions. So that indicates a very proactive approach. If we're looking at the more framework opportunity, where we're looking at the external environment, so looking at infrastructure, technology, 240 of them were strong there. And then I just want to mention redistribution was very big in terms of redistributing food to charities. We also saw this very much in the retail stage, but there they were selling the food really at a discounted rate. And then 100 of these interventions had a technology or app. In terms of the technology and innovation, just to highlight two big things here. Apps, online platforms, software were huge in terms of selling food at discounted rate, but also how do you store food? How do you deal with surplus food in terms of using it for meals? How do you track expiry dates, etc.? Valorization was very big, as I said before. And of course, you did have scientific investigations, and energy was a very big component in terms of how this surplus food was being used. Last but not least, two things we did see. There was a very much a need for a more comprehensive monitoring system, including key indicators to track progress of these interventions, definitely on the environment side as well. And we didn't see much of a gender perspective. It's very hard to do with these interventions, but we didn't see much of a gender perspective from conception to evaluation. Now, all of these interventions, they are available on our project website and our data hub. If you want more information, there's specific data points on each one of them. Okay, and that's it. We're 14 partners. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Chantal, for the presentation.
No problem.
Now let's move to our next speaker, Pierre Tubiana. Pierre studied law and political science in Paris. Pierre completed his formation with a master's degree in journalism. Since 2018, Pierre works to implement digital solutions on different fields of activity as a recruitment, e-commerce, or media. In 2022, Pierre joined BM Services, a French digital agency specialized in communication and e-commerce, to coordinate the development of a short-chain solution called Regioneo as part of the sister project. Thank you very much, Pierre, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen.
Remember, you have around 10 minutes to the presentation, and once there is 1 minute left, I will just tell it to you. Thanks.
I'm sorry, because of the settings of the Zoom, I just have to quit and come back to share it. Just 1 minute, please.
Okay.
Settings. Hi again. Sorry for that. I'm going, and I'm going to share it. Can you see it?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. So my name is Pierre Tubiana, and I'm working for BM Services. And we joined the project Sisters to develop a short chain platform that we call Regioneo. First of all, I'm going to present in few words BM Services. So we have a digital agency based in the middle of France, in Lozère. We are specialized in e-commerce and web marketing, and we have a team, cross-disciplinary team that enable us to adapt to every project, and that's why we were chosen to join Sisters project to develop Regioneo. And we are the leader of the WP1 to create a short chain platform. So before launching the development of Regioneo, we just did feasibility studies to analyze the risk and the opportunities we have. We have two main objectives to see on the consumer square and on the primary producer square. So on the consumer square, we see that consumers are willing to buy online, and COVID helped that, unfortunately, but it's now part of everyday life of each of us to consume online and to buy online. On the other side, we see that consumers are keen to have a direct and reliable information about what they're consuming. They want information, so they are ready, I think, more than before, to buy anti-waste products and to continue on this way. On the primary producer scale, as was said before, producers are strongly encouraged to grow surplus crops and to meet market factors. So it's a contradiction with the consumer square more ready to have a new kind of product with considering anti-waste. We see also that the existing solution to sell anti-waste or directly sell fruit and vegetables online have to take margin to be profitable at increasing price for the consumer. Also, producers have few spaces on this platform to speak about what they did, about how they work, about by their own identity, like we can say. And so we see that they need a space to promote their vision and the way of their work, of working. And on the more basic scale, we see that producers have no IT skills or really few. And only really big companies can sell online or create a website. But for small and medium producers, they don't have any time, and they don't have the internet skills to create a website through WordPress or something like that. So that's why that's why of our reflection to have something really easy to use. So to answer all this opportunity and risk we see, first of all, we decide to create a low-tech platform the main idea is to be the most easy as possible for the producer. We need something without a local solution, something that can cheap and something we can adapt depending on the producer and the scale of producing. We want something that every producer can have an individual website to promote how they work and their identity. Our main idea after that, with all these individual websites, is to create national platforms, gathering all the anti-waste offer that's going to improve the visibility of the offer and improving the website SEO. And at the end, with this individual website and this platform, we create new direct sell for producer. So now I'm going more strictly about Regionio. So about the low-tech solution, we developed it as a SaaS solution. So it's something in the cloud, and it's really easy for us and for the producer to create a website. They just need to inscribe themselves. The website is created with the back office and a dedicated app that they can download from App Store, Google Store. And it's really one click to create after the inscription. Of course, it's optimized for every device. Producer and consumer can go through a smartphone or a desktop to order or to manage the website on the producer side. Of course, because Sister is a European project, and we want to promote and to develop Regionero around all the European Union. So we translate every part of the solution. So now we have 5 different languages: English, Dutch, French, Italian, and at the end of the project, we want to have all the Euro language. To make it easy also to handle for the producer, we created dedicated apps that you will see screen on the next page. This app allow them to manage their catalog, to manage everything online in any place. On the consumers parts, we decided that they didn't want to have an app or something to order, so we didn't create anything for them. They just have to go online like every website and order. And at the end, also in this way to all our producers to promote by identity, we can create a newsletter for each of them, and if they want to send something. So more strictly about Regioneo, about the main functionalities. So we have the website creation. We provide the domain names. There is a contact form on the website. There is a map also, and we did all the hosting and backup in case there is something happens. So that's why they don't have to think about any technological specific skills or technological difficulties. Of course, we manage the product catalog management. So what we want to do is that they create an offer really fast, and they can control it every time through the app that you can see on the right of the screen, the availability of it. They can hide the product. They can say that the product is out of stock for the moment, but come back in I don't know, in 10 days or 15 days. Like this, they can organize themselves with all the harvest, or if they know they have a surplus, they can sell in advance the product. Of course, they can have different area to sell their fruit and vegetables. So they can choose. So if they do city market, or if they can sell at the exploitation, they can set everything with each offer. And like this, we try to give them as much as agility as possible to sell online. And consumer at the end just choose a location, a time, and they can pay online if they want. But we saw that some of the producers don't want to have online payment because the final bill is depending on the weight. So sometimes they just want to wait until they see the consumer. So we allow both of that. Through the app, they can also manage all the messages that consumer can send through the website. And so like this, we really try to make once again, as easy as possible. And through one app, they can have everything, messages, orders, managing their offer and everything. And of course, they can sell they can say if it's an anti-waste offer or not, like this, to indicate to the consumer if they do something, if they consume something anti-waste, or if it's something, like I say, normal. First of all, we were thinking to do only a solution about strictly anti-waste products, but as we see, producers need to sell both. They don't need, it's not a good idea for them to have two solutions, one for normal product and one for anti-waste product or offer. So that's why we of course allowing all the producers to say what they want about fruit and vegetable online. What we do specifically about anti-waste is the national portals. On the national portals, they can only sell anti-waste offer. So that's the main functionalities from now. And now we can see the next step for us. The next step, and one of the most important for us, is to enroll at least 100 producers to test Regioneo. We see that it's something more difficult than we thought. Producers are, some of them try solutions, some of them have really bad feedbacks from other solutions. So we really struggle to find some. We have like more than 20 from now, but we really need more to test the solution and to be as close as possible of their needs. And of course, during this test phase for 1 or 2 years now until the end of sister project, Regioneo is free of charge, and we have a dedicated support for all of them around Europe. It can be, we have Italian, Spanish, or French producer from now, and one from Belgium. And we can help them every day, and they don't have to pay anything, and they can stop. The main goal is to be agile for them and to give them trust on solution, because we saw that there is digital education and it's hard to convince them sometimes. On the functionalities development we have now, we want to put a delivery system, because from now,
you have around 1 minute, Pierre.
Okay, it's almost done. Thank you. From now, it's only like a click and collect possibility for when consumer buy online, but we want to have a delivery system, and to make it easier to create a website. We want to have templates that we can just choose, and the website, they just put pictures and some information, and the website is created. When we will have enough producers from one country, we will create the first national portal with the anti-waste offer. But for now, we focus on to find producers to test the solution and to push the development. And at the end of, we will create a database of fruit and vegetables, and we are in contact with a French agency for that. And like this, it will be easier again to create an offer. It will be quick, and the main idea for us is that in less than 1 day, a producer can begin to sell online. So yeah, I present you quickly what Regioneo is capable of. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if you have any advice or contact of producer, please, I will be glad to hear from that.
Thanks a lot, Pierre.
Thank you.
So now let's move to our next speaker, who's going to be Simona Herba. She's a research fellow at the Trinity College Dublin, and currently working as a business development manager for Sharing Solutions. Today Simona is here representing the Cultivate project. Thank you very much for being here, and Simona, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. And you can see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for the introduction. So as we were saying, Sharing Solutions is part of the Cultivate project, so they're intertwined that way. So what we're going to focus on today is mainly the Sharing Solutions side of things. So what is Sharing Solutions? So Sharing Solutions is an online evidence-based platform that is designed specifically for food sharing initiatives. So the idea is to help them valorize and get sustainability impacts across to the general population or stakeholders. So what do we mean for food sharing solutions? So food sharing initiatives. So food share initiatives are the main focus of Sharing Solutions and Cultivate. So the way we define them is that food sharing is anything that involves the collective actions around food and food-related items, right? So that could be food, could be knowledge, could be skills. In the way that we're analyzing food share initiatives, we consider any organizational form that either grows, cooks, redistributes food together. So this is the kind of audience that Sharing Solutions and Cultivate are mainly targeting on. So main features of the Sharing Solutions platform is, first of all, the mapping. So we've done a mapping of already 100 cities that is growing to 200 cities across the EU. This is done through the Cultivate project. And we're also investigating potential for AI kind of automation tools so that food share initiatives could always be mapped across different cities in Europe, which is obviously the first step in having them recognized and visible. Then we have the Food Share Initiative Sustainability Impact Reporting, which is one of the main features of the Sharing Solution platform. So this tool is all about sustainability impact. And the difference with other sustainability impact reporting is that the questionnaire that an FSI, so Food Share Initiative, will have to go through has been bespokely developed for a food sharing initiative. So all of the questions are very specific to the activities that a food sharing initiative will do. At the moment, this is being rolled out through the Cultivate project. So we are reaching 10 European cities, and the hope is that we will expand beyond that in time. And the third feature of the Sharing Solution platform and website is that we are currently offering some consultancy services. So we actually have our first client signed up that is starting at the end of the month. But the idea is to explore and validate our services, our reporting, mapping through bespoke clients where we can focus on one-of-a-kind project, one at a time, and really refine what we already have. So why a service for food sharing initiatives? So that's kind of like one of the main questions. So the aim that Sharing Solutions is trying to is to valorize food sharing initiatives. So these initiatives are present through the territory in most cities, but they're often a bit hidden from different stakeholders, from the population, from even suppliers, producers, anybody with food surplus. They're not very visible sometimes. And also to provide food share initiatives with a tool to demonstrate their impact. So we want to use an holistic framework that doesn't just look at one item. So a lot of times, especially for the smaller initiatives, they either focus on the social impact or the environmental, but any food share initiative will often have impacts across different pillars: the social, environmental, the economic, the governance, and that depends on how the food share initiative runs, what they do, the scale. But they oftentimes have impacts across all pillars. So that is a tool really to kind of help them bring their impact forward. And why is it important? So we know that food surplus is an issue, food waste is an issue. And a lot of times food share initiatives can be a viable kilometer zero option to redistribute food. A lot of times, even in developed cities, there's a level of food insecurity across the population, or sometimes even for food insecure households, having quality food, nutritional food can be difficult. So we see the food share initiatives as a feature that can play a big role in food waste prevention and reduction. So having these kind of tools will help develop appropriate strategies to valorize truly these initiatives and have them seen helping governments and cities to achieve the 2030 targets. So main features of the website and platform are really, there's a threefold kit: the tool shed, the talent garden, and the greenhouse. So very, very briefly, the tool shed is the platform where each initiative will log on, have their own kind of login, and perform their sustainability impact assessment. The talent garden is a feature where through the platform, again, through this login, because obviously it's private, a food chain initiative can showcase their impact. They can share either their impact report, they can share stories, whatever they might want to. And the greenhouse, which is a networking hub for food chain initiatives to share knowledge, experiences, skills, challenges, whatever that might be. So all of these features are quite new. So on the greenhouse at the moment, there wouldn't really be probably like only 3 or 4 initiatives. But the idea is that through Cultivate, through the rollout of this project across 10 European cities, these features can all grow on their own. So the main feature of our Sustainable Impact Report, main features are that the report is aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It would help initiatives, as I said, to align their ESG targets, so environmental, social, and governance, and demonstrate their sustainable impact through an independent assessment. Benefits, obviously, are to really show the contribution to carbon emissions, reduction, conserving natural resources, protecting ecosystem. Social impact, some examples might be towards improving food security, fair labor practices, support communities. Economic impact might be towards cost saving, resilience of food budgets, improved operational efficiency. So those are just some examples of what is within each pillar. And again, why is important to report as a food sharing initiatives? It can help with transparency and impact for your stakeholders, an optimization of resources and insight for target investment within the food sharing initiatives, or to ask for the right amount of resources, and as an effective communication opportunity for food sharing initiatives. So I'm going to close out here with a few next steps for sharing solutions. So what we're working on at the moment is to strengthen the community of food sharing initiatives. The partnership in Cultivate project is obviously paramount to achieve this, but we will be starting some additional activities on this soon. And continue improving the sharing solution platform for its users. So that is vital, because obviously these things are only as good as the users find them. So the feedback from the food sharing initiatives, the feedback from consultancy services will help us in improve the platform in a way that is really, really actually useful for the users and the stakeholders involved. And as I said, the part of improving the sharing solution platform is to provide bespoke consultancy services to understand and revise the impact assessment for food sharing projects. And that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Simona, for the nice presentation. Now let's move to our next speaker, who's going to be Clara Cicatello. She's a tenure track assistant professor of agricultural economics at the University of Tuscia in Italy since 2022. Formerly, she was a fixed-term assistant professor and research assistant in different departments of the same university. And right now, Clara is the coordinator of the ongoing Low in Food project, which is formed by a consortium of 27 partners and focusing on the demonstration of innovations for food loss and waste prevention. Thank you very much, Clara, for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Joan, for the invitation. Hello, everybody. So, yeah, I'm here today as the coordinator of the Loving Food project, mainly because
I cannot see your screen right now. I don't know if it's only me, but I see a black screen.
Yeah, it says it's going to upload it, so I will maybe start in the meantime. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we hear you. Perfect. Okay,
so,
now.
Basically, I'm here as the coordinator of the Loving Food project, so I will skip the presentation as you already introduced myself. I'm here especially to focus on social innovations because in the 10 years experience I have been working in the food waste domain, basically what I understood, Berta was also mentioning this at the beginning of the morning, that reducing food waste is not only a responsibility that we have and that we promise to have food waste, but it's also a change that we can make in food systems that can trigger other positive changes. So I'm very much convinced about this. So this is why today, among the several innovations we have tested in the Loving Food project, I will focus on social innovations that, in my view, are those that deliver several, let's say, additional benefits besides the simple reduction of food waste. So, of course, I will go very quick here because we are all, let's say, very familiar with the topic, but you know that the context where food waste is produced are very diverse, not only because food loss and waste is produced all along the food supply chain, but also because in different categories, in supply chains operating in different food categories, the dynamics of food waste generations can be different. So different causes of food waste at different stages of the supply chain and for different products. This requires, let's say, different solutions. So you all know the structure of the food hierarchy to reduce food loss and waste. So you all know that the first and preferred option is prevention. And the Loving Food project is exactly focusing on the prevention part of the food waste hierarchy. And it's trying to test and demonstrate some innovations that can prevent food waste from being generated. Consider that in this period, Loving Food is a project that is very well advanced, let's say. So we are in our last year of activity, which means that our innovations have been already tested and demonstrating. So most of the testing we have done are already concluded. So we have used different type of innovations, so spanning from technological innovations to social innovations and institutional innovations, both focusing on the organization of businesses and on policy. Today, what I would like to do is to spend some more words on social innovations. So first, a definition of social innovations. So social innovations are a kind of innovation that does not require any, let's say, technological improvement, but it focuses on some new way with which actors can interact with each other, thus delivering some benefits to the whole supply chain. And this is exactly what we did in Loving Food. In Loving Food, we, in total, we tested as many as 14 different innovations. If you want to know more about this, you can go on our website. We have a wide set of videos for all these innovations that are applied in 4 different contexts. So the fruit and vegetable supply chain, the bakery supply chain, the fish supply chain, and then we have a set of specific innovations that are specific for the consumption part of the supply chain. So for all these innovations, we tested them in real food chains, so in a real environment. And among all these, we had 3 social innovations. These 3 social innovations are focused first on a stakeholder dialogue between bakers. We developed this in 3 different countries. Then a stakeholder dialogue concerning fishers and fish industry. And third, a social innovation concerning a new way of teaching topics related to food and food waste at the schools. So I will now explain a bit more in detail what we did and what were the results of these 3 innovations that we implemented. So let's start from the bakery sector. This was a specific task in Loving Food in work package number 3. So the work package dedicated to the bakery sector, and University of Tuscia, the university where I work, was directly responsible for developing and testing these innovations. This innovation in Italy. So this innovation was developed in 3 different countries: Italy, Sweden, and Finland, which have quite different bakery sectors, because in Italy we have thousands of small bakeries, basically providing 85% of the bread that is consumed every day. Instead, in Finland and Sweden, the structure of the bakery sector is more oligopolistic, let's say, so there are some big players. So what we did is that in this different context, we developed country by country some meetings and discussion with a panel of bakeries. In Italy, for example, we invited 15 bakeries, and in Sweden and Finland, they were 5 and 6, if I remember well. So the idea was that this group of people, they met 3 to 5 times, and they discussed about the causes of food loss and waste at bakeries, so either during the production and during the commercialization. And they were like sharing the action they already did to limit to some extent this problem. And the result of this interaction is that we arrived to the production of a roadmap, let's say a guideline. In Italy, this guideline was called a hand against waste because it was a set of 5 actions that bakeries can do to prevent the loss and waste of bread. So in a subsequent part of the demonstration, the bakeries which were participating in the dialogue, they agreed to implement these 5 actions for a period of time. All the bakeries that implement these actions had this like sign applied on the bakery in order to, let's say, communicate their effort. And it was very interesting also because the reaction of the customers was very interested, let's say, because customers, of course, are also part of the story. Concerning the work we have done in the fish sector, the mechanism was pretty similar. So this stakeholder dialogue with fishers and fish industry was done in Scotland and Germany. And basically the point here is that we try to engage these actors in a dialogue where they first could recognize and quantify to some extent the problem of food loss and waste in the fish sector, which is really a sector where data lacks very much. And they were trying to identify the hotspots for food loss and waste. And the idea here was to use this stakeholder dialogue, so to use this these actors participating in the dialogue to push the awareness of all actors towards this problem. And for this reason, we participated in several fairs concerning fairs of the fish sector to spread the awareness about food loss and waste in the fish sector. And third, I mean, we are now changing a bit the focus because the third social innovation that we implemented was implemented at school, and it was basically the production of teaching materials embedded in the school curricula to teach students about food waste prevention and the organization of zero waste cooking sessions involving the students. So here the output, which is already published, so you find it on our website, is like some teaching materials in German and English that can be used by teachers at secondary and primary schools, and a format which has been tested and proved successful of a 2-step cooking session. So first, the students are trained in some way about how to cook and how to reuse leftovers to cook, and then they materially and concretely cook this stuff, and they so in this way they are, let's say, trained also practically to this purpose. And at the same time, of course, for the loss and waste at the same school was monitored and proved to be reduced as a consequence of these activities. So in general, for social innovations in the domain of loss and waste, they're mainly focused on prevention. This is exactly because social innovations are very good to spread the awareness about food waste and the attention of all the actors of the supply chain to do something to prevent food waste from being generated. Of course, it's very difficult to measure their efficacy in terms of food waste prevention, in terms of quantities. Where there is the higher, let's say, quantity of food waste at baseline, for example, at schools, you will see some, let's say, significant results. But otherwise, for social innovations, the main results, you can see the main results not only in the reduction of quantities of food loss and waste, but especially in the change of the environment of the cultural approach to food loss and waste in these sectors. And the reason for this is that social innovations are really made with the actors that are materially every day working with food. So on the one hand, they cannot be standardized too much. So you can standardize, let's say, the format, the procedure, but then with the same format and with the same procedure, it's likely that the result will always be different because maybe the actors, the people who are there are different. For the same reason, the commitment...
Around 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So the commitment of these people involved is very important, and their commitment and their work also to sensitize the other actors of the supply chain makes an additional social value. So this is the point I would like to strengthen. So social innovations are not let's say, cannot be the only solutions for sure, because in several cases, their capacity to actually reduce in a short time the quantity of food loss and waste, which is what we need now, is not that high, but at the same time, they have a great power to change the cultural approach to food loss and waste, and to spread the awareness, not with campaigns, the top-down campaigns, but with the work of the people who every day are in the supply chain. So basically, these are my key messages. So in my view, social innovations will do their part in our journey to the reduction of food loss and waste, as far as we are able to adopt a flexible approach, which is needed for social innovations. So test robust formats, but allow these formats to adapt to different contexts, because otherwise this innovation will hardly be successful if they are not adapted and tailored to different contexts. So thank you very much. If you want to know more, of course, about these 3 innovations and all the others of Loving Food, we have plenty of communication materials on the website, which is lovingfood.eu, and on our social media. Thank you, John, for your invitation.
Thank you very much, Clara, for the nice and clear presentation. And now it should be time for the last presentation of the session, but we are not sure if the speaker is here. So Ula, Santi, if you are here, can you confirm that you are here? And if not, we will close the session in here and we will move to the round table.
Hello, this is Eevi from Savonia. Ulla sadly got sick yesterday evening, and that's why Anne and I are here on behalf of Ulla, but we didn't have Ulla's presentation and we have prepared our own presentation. Can we share it, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So you can share it and do the presentation. I don't know if you have the right to share the screen.
Okay.
Yes,
if
it should work. Just try it, and I think it should work.
Okay, we try to.
Yes.
Now
Okay,
you can see the
Yeah, we can see the screen. So the floor is yours, and thank you very much for being here and covering the ULA spot. So
yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now. Okay, I think you can see the dais now. So I'm Anne Lopainen, project expert here in Savonia University of Applied Sciences. Yeah, I think you may be familiar with our team. Harri Alvinen, who is our RDI manager, Ulla, RDI specialist, Eevi, research engineer, yeah, myself, project expert. This is our team for the Food Looks project that is funded by the Interreg Baltic Sea region program. Started last August and will last until July 2025. And we have partners from Poland and Lithuania and a facilitator in Germany. And here in Kuopio, we work with the city of Kuopio, basic education schools from the lower and upper levels, and then also high schools, and to some extent also vocational schools, since they have the catering students and teachers, and of course they are the expert in this field. And then also we work Servica, which is the food service company that has a contract with the city of Kuopio, and they cater all the schools in this region. And what we have done so far, we have had workshops and we have had interviews. We had like 5 schools which we interviewed. They were the basic education and also high schools. And we wanted to find out the reasons why the food waste still is a challenge and what could be done. And there are also other projects, and this subject has been on the agenda quite a long time. So we wanted to have an update what is happening in the schools. And here Minnakan school was that was upper basic school. Hatsala, also Pujansarvi is kind of common. It comprises both lower and upper basic school. And then we had the Lysea High School, and Lumit is also a high school. And we made a Webropol questionnaire. I will show you the questions soon, and 126 pupils responded, and then we also had a separate section for school staff, like the principals and teachers, and also the catering staff from Cervika. So we had the quite basic questions. What makes school food good? How often the pupils eat food? Why they eat or why they don't eat? And then we talked about bio-waste and whether the pupils participate in planning school food menu, and if the schools have thematic days, and if their parents have been involved with discussing the school food issues. And then we also talked about how to improve the restaurants or the canteens, and also proposed the idea of application to monitor food waste. Well, then the results were quite clear. Most of the students replied they prefer meat still. So we have a lot to do with the vegetarian food issue, because people said that it doesn't taste anything or it's tasteless. And maybe there are still some attitudes regarding vegetables. And but what was positive is that almost 90% eat school lunch every day. And the reasons why they eat were very simple, because they are hungry, their friends eat, and they realize that it's free in the sense that actually it's taxpayers' money or subsidized by taxpayers.
Free for them.
Yeah, free for them, yes. And also regarding bio-waste, most of 90% or almost 100% said that it's a familiar issue to them. And what regarding menu planning, which has been found quite an important when we have discussed with our network about the issue, 70% of the pupils said that they are not involved in planning the food. Then 60% said that they had discussed school food with parents, and they were quite happy how the canteens were. There were only minor things about furniture and maybe more noise, yes, queues, and how the queuing is organized, because sometimes the lunch or the time for lunch is very short. Like in one school, they said
15 minutes.
Yes. And this was quite a good answer to us, that the application might be popular. And actually, first I got answers that no, but then when we explained what the idea is, that the kitchen will get the info beforehand, and so I think they realized what the main reason is. So that I think we maybe may pilot some kind of application. And we have this Wilma, which is the national electronic system for
Schools.
yes. So there have been some pilots in Western Finland to use the system for reporting. So then regarding the staff's opinions, there are some points that I will take up, like they have sustainable development in multidisciplinary studies themes that lasts 1 week, and it is organized twice per year. Then there are thematic weeks in schools, like the upcoming autumn. There is this waste week, and
food waste
yes,
week. Yeah.
and we will organize workshops and some events with the schools. And then it was like we used to have this religious opening decades ago, so there was an idea that each day there would be this day's opening with this subject of food. And then food waste issues and monitoring could be included in different lessons and in school lunches. And also teachers should be involved at the lunches, because sometimes there are separate premises for staffs and pupils' lunch. Most of the headmasters answered that they have discussed the food leftover issue with the service companies. But on the other hand, most were not involved in food waste networks. And almost all have made improvements in canteens. And 60%, almost 60% reported that the schools collaborate with pupils' parents. Like there are these parents' evenings, they are the main tools for discussion. Okay. And then some general issues, what we have discussed in our network. This is the last point, SISU network implementing organized climate work in North Savo project. They gathered ideas what the projects in this network could do together. And one main issue was that the tracking and measuring system for food waste is very versatile. So some common tools should be developed and implemented in place.
So you have more or less 1 minute left for the presentation.
Yes. And yes, as I mentioned, a big challenge is that still that vegetarian food is not popular among pupils. And more cooperation with economics teachers and parents is needed. And yes, those are the main things. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Evie, for your presentation. I would like to thank all the speakers to keep the time limit aligned with what was proposed. And now it's the time to move to the round table for around 15 minutes or so maximum, and then we'll have a well-deserved coffee break. So I will ask all the speakers that can turn on the camera, and then we will be asking some questions that were put in the chat and some general questions that we have. So I would like to start this roundtable asking a question to Berta, because in her keynote there was one sentence that caught my attention, which was that the food loss was a structural problem of globalized food system. And then she expanded on that, explaining a really good case study on watermelons and melons from Senegal.
Yes.
And it's clear that it's a global problem, but for me, it's not that clear what is the solution, because you can see the problem from many different perspectives. You can see globalization as a problem and we should go back to another food system, or maybe the problem is we should promote better practices in the South, how to redefine the market or this global market, I don't know. So there is a lot of questions in that sense, and I would like if you could expand a little bit on your thoughts on that issue.
Okay, thank you, Joan. I mean, I don't have, so of course I don't have the perfect answer. Otherwise, I mean, we wouldn't have that much work ahead to say. But that's something that actually, I mean, we were while we were working on the definitional framework of food laws and the different aspects that should be considered. And also, since now measuring food loss, talking about food loss, it's kind of new regarding Europe. But as we are working in a cleaning organization, we are in the field, we talk with the farmers, and we actually realize when, for instance, because of geopolitical decisions, suddenly they cannot harvest oranges, because it's not profitable, let's say, for them. And somehow we realized that there are some parallelisms between also like global South and North, and at the same time, maybe also between the South of Europe, and the North of Europe. Let's say in Spain, we are producing a lot of food, in Spanish, they say España es la huerta de Europa. I don't know how to say. So, if we measure food losses at Spanish level, we will have, of course, like really big amounts if we do it properly, because we are producing a lot of food to export, to other countries. But because they cannot produce them there, but they want to consume them, So whose responsibility? I don't know if I explain myself properly, but we know that, for example, in regarding imports from, let me explain it in a way, because I don't know if I will say it well, but regarding deforestation in Europe, they are studying, I don't know if it has been approved, but they are studying a regulation to decrease imports from wood that has been cutted. I don't know, like that its origin it comes from like deforestation practices in the Amazon and other areas. So there are some legislations that maybe could be, I don't know why, they could maybe be applied and adapted to the food system, so we can also maybe reduce imports of foods that actually produce big amounts of losses or waste in other countries. Because actually it's not that it's not vital for us to eat melon in February. I don't know how to say, it's a bit like a utopia of consumption of the global north that at the same time is causing a lot of vulnerabilities in the countries where these foods are produced. So I think there are tools, but I understand that it's very tricky to implement these type of regulations. But I don't know, maybe it's a way that we could explore with also in the food loss and waste field.
Thank you. Yeah, just complex problem. Thank you very much. I don't know if any other speaker wants to add something to this topic, because I think it's a relevant one. But if not, there is other questions in the chat to be replied. No, so let's move. So there is one question for Clara from Low in Food. And the question is related to the different levels of resistance that you encountered to engaging the different sectors in discussing their issues in food loss and waste. And the question is if you have identified different levels of resistance when you are looking at different company types, at different countries, other parameters. So how is this engaging between different actors happening and what are the main problematics that you have found?
Yeah, for sure. In a project like Loving Food, which involves 14 innovations in 12 countries, so of course we have found several differences. Generally speaking, my feeling is that there are some companies which are a bit more resistant, and also some sectors which are a bit more resistant. For example, in the fish sector, since the discourse about loss and waste is really at the beginning, it was very difficult for the first year to have the involvement of these actors. In this sense, you know, the communication that is done at the European level, at the institutional level, is very important to push the actors to open the eyes toward this problem. On the other hand, we found a lot of interest toward loss and waste in the sectors and companies which are smaller. That's very interesting because for example, for the bakeries, in the bakery sector, we found a lot more, for us it was a lot easier to work with Italian bakeries, which are small or very small, with respect to Swedish and Finnish bakeries, which are very big industries. And this is in my view, this is due to two aspects. The first is that these small companies, they see in the global, let's say, globalization of the sector, they see their business at risk. And so working on the food waste issue for them is a way to improve the overall sustainability of their business, even from an economic point of view. So they need to do something to survive. And so working on the food waste issues is one of these issues, is one of the solutions. And then another aspect is that when the companies are smaller, the owners, they're really the people who work in the companies, who stay in the night to make the bread or to sell them in the morning. So they are, in some way, the product has much more value for them with respect to the big industry. So in this sense, we were a bit surprised also about this, but in sectors with small businesses, we found, let's say, place for working, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, really interesting. So because normally it's the other way around, and with SMEs, it's sometimes much more difficult to engage them. So it's nice to see that. And also there is another question for you. From the different social innovations that you have tested, is one of them that has greater impact, at least in your case, because I think probably it's very specific, each situation is specific, but at least in your case, what have been working better for you?
Yeah, among the three social innovations that we have seen, if we are talking about results in terms of food waste reduction, so in terms of quantity of food saved, for sure the activities at school are more effective. And this is probably because there is a lot of food waste at schools, so the margin, let's say, to reduce it, it's more, there is more potential, let's say, to reduce food waste there. But instead, for example, in the bakeries, they already work quite efficiently, so they don't waste so much bread, much less than we expected after the monitoring we did. So for sure, at schools, there is a lot of potential to work with social innovations, and this is recurring in several meetings. I talk about this because I mean we have worked with in the production of materials and cooking workshops to increase the awareness of the students towards the food waste issue. But this is it's recurring, and I think that the general conclusion is that we need to teach students about food education and food literacy in general. I mean, this is something that should be included in all programs and curricula of schools at all stages in some way. And I think this is still lacking in several countries.
Thank you very much. So these are very general questions. So well, so in that case was a specific question for Clara, but we are talking about social innovation. So if any speaker has an addition and wants to present some of their specific cases, feel free to jump in the conversation whenever you want. But if not, we'll move on. But just feel free to raise your hand or just start talking if you wish. If not, there is a question for Simona. When you were presenting the indicators for the reporting initiative in the food sharing initiative. Could you expand a little bit on the methods or frameworks you are using for the reporting? For example, in the social indicators or governance indicators, are you focusing, for example, in standardized methods such as a global reporting initiative or something like that? Or just if you could give us a little bit more details on the kind of framework that you are basing your reporting, could be great.
Yeah, sure. So we're not using a predefined framework, something that is already out there. And the reason is that we wanted to make it bespoke to what the activities of a food sharing initiative is. So say, for example, under the social impact, you will have the integration of different groups in the communities. You will have accessibility to food, health and mental kind of impacts. So there's not really an already established framework that does this. So the idea is to hopefully become that framework for them. So how it works is that there's a number of questions. There's like over 100 questions in the questionnaires, but the idea is that not every food sharing initiatives will answer them all, because obviously their experience and their activities will be different. And then the answers are mapped against ESG targets or the UN development goals. So depending on where the food sharing initiative answers the question, that will go towards, let's say, a score against each pillar or each SDG. That's how it works.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I imagine this framework is open to see. There is a report in which people can see the different indicators and how it's calculated and so on.
Yeah, you can, like say, for example, an FSI or a user can register on the platform. So it's not available on the website, but it's a platform, because obviously there's a level of privacy there. But you can register free of charge and have a look for yourselves. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a couple of extra minutes. So there is time for one or two extra questions. I don't see any remaining question in the chat, but I wanted to ask to Pierre two different things. One is that he said he's looking for farmers to test the tool, and I was wondering if only French farmers or this is open to all European countries. And the second question for him was, in one of the slides, you have said that producers are strongly encouraged to grow a surplus of food. And of course, this is a main issue that can lead to an increased food loss. Do you think the platform or the solution that you are developing could be a solution for that problem, or at least to minimize it? Or if not, how do you think we could tackle this growing surplus of food that is not aligned with the demand?
Thank you. First of all, about our need of producers to test the solution. Yes, of course, it's open on all European Union. Our only the problem will be the translation. For example, if it's a Finnish producer, we need someone who speaks Finnish to help us, just to have a contact with them. So what we did, for example, with the Italian producer, we have a partner in the sister project who speak Italian, and so she's doing the translation. She did the translation, and like this we can exchange, and then we can support the technical problems. About your other question, I don't think it's going to minimize the surplus, because surplus is asking by distribution, is asking by some part of the consumer, it's asking also for the price, to keep the price down. But what we thought that our solution will help the producer to sell more, and maybe to sell a little bit better if it's find his way economically, I mean. So it may be step by step redirect a little bit the consumption to a close consumer and to short chain consumption. But for example, in Spain, they as you say before, it's a huge production. It's really difficult for, I think, big producer to reduce, because it's part of their margin and it's part of their business. And they are not, about what we saw, but they are not so can say I can't say concern, but food and lost waste is not my main problem. The main problem, I think, it's to increase their revenue. It's to find a way to just live and to work better. But that's why when we present Regioneo, if we start speaking about food loss and waste, is not the best argument for us. The best argument for us is we want to help your work. We want to create new channel possibilities for you and etc.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to try to link revenues with increased sustainability. So the way to enter the market is, okay, this will increase the revenue, but if in the meantime we can do something to increase the sustainability, even
yeah,
better.
thank you very much. That's part of my message. And thank you, Berta. I see your message, and I will ask you something.
Perfect. So these are the nice things of this webinar. So if you can meet together and do something in Spain also, it will be great. Okay, so with that, I think we should conclude this very interesting session. Thank you very much, all the speakers. If in the meantime there is other people that have questions or so on, you can just leave it in the chat and probably the speakers will reply